Hi, my name is Jason Morenzi, and today I will be presenting on racial disparities among stroke clinical trials between the years of 1995 to 2021. Now, although we know that race is a social construct without biological meaning, race significantly impacts healthcare outcomes. Race is often underrepresented in clinical trials, making it very difficult to identify and address health inequities. Race is also an essential marker that can significantly impact healthcare choices as well as identify healthcare disparities. Now, in this study, we analyzed studies pertaining to cerebrovascular accidents, CVAs. The primary purpose of the study was to assess the inclusion of racial data in CVA clinical trials. Our secondary purpose was to assess the representation of the various races in CVA clinical trials. Moving on to our methods, this meta-analysis consisted of publicly available data found on the website clinicaltrials.gov, in which we typed in the search term stroke. Now, two independent researchers, my partner and I, extracted data using Microsoft Excel for both data collection as well as analysis. The primary outcome of this project was to look at the prevalence of trials that reported racial data. And the secondary outcome was to look at racial and gender diversity among these trial participants. Now, looking at our Prisma table, when we typed in the search term stroke, we came up with 7,004 trials. Among these 7,004 trials, we included the filter of complete, interventional, and trials with results. This excluded 6,536 trials. Now, this left us with 468 trials altogether. 235 of these trials were excluded because they did not include racial data. And so we were left with only 233 trials for analysis. Going a bit further, of the total 468 trials that included trials without racial data, we saw that there was a total of 477,599 participants. Of the trials that did include racial data, we saw that 72% of those participants identified as white, 5.05% of those participants identified as Black, while 19.5% identified as the combined other group. This combined other group included those who identified as Asian, American Indian, Native Hawaiian, other, unknown, and those who did not report. Now, going a bit further, we looked at the gender of these trials. 62% identified as male, and only 37.9% identified as female. So we already saw a bit of a disparity with the gender as well as racial data. Now, looking at the trials that also included pharmacological intervention, we see that 73% identified as white, 3.76% identified as Black, and 19.8% identified as the combined other group. So we already see a big difference in the representation of different demographics within these stroke clinical trials. Now, looking at the gender of these pharmacologic trials, we see 67.7% were male and 32.2% identified as female. Now, just to restate a couple things, of these stroke clinical trials reviewed, only 49.8% reported race. This is about half. Furthermore, only 46.7% of stroke trials with the pharmacologic intervention reported race. So we already see that a majority of trials do not report race. Moreover, women and non-white subjects were significantly underrepresented in the stroke clinical trials. The underrepresentation of women and non-white subjects in these clinical trials raises a concern regarding access to stroke clinical trials and the need to further study these disparities. The results of this meta-analysis brings to light the disparities that plague the medical community and society as a whole, which regards to racial and sexual bias. Future research areas should include of important determinants of health, including but not limited to specific ethnic groups, socioeconomic status, education, occupation, and access of adequate healthcare. And these are our references, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.